What we told our kids from the beginning was school was on them and that they needed to struggle, that there's value in the struggle. And if we jumped in and saved them from every situation, they would never learn and grow.
Hello again and welcome to Hey Pops Financial. We're glad to have you with us today. We have a special treat. This is part of our Talk to the Parents, Grandparents segment. And what we like to do with these interviews is to find out what kinds of things people have experienced in their lives, some of the questions that their children have, and as part of our effort to increase financial literacy in the next generation, hopefully we can spread some of those ideas, good and bad, to those listening, and not just their children and grandchildren, but to our wider audience. Today we have with us the Riggs, Matt and Donna Riggs. These are friends of mine from a long time ago. We have a lot of history together, and I've appreciated them. And I thank them for being willing to be interviewed this evening. So I think you'll enjoy talking with them. Great sense of humor and just terrific people. And so hopefully they can share some insights with all of us. So let me give you a moment, both Donna and Matt, to introduce yourselves. Just tell us a little bit about who you are and what has brought you to this point. A little bit about your family, whatever.
So I'm a native Arizonan, very rare nowadays. Matt and I met when we were at ASU. We were both students there, and we have raised 6 amazing kids together. We've spent most of our life in Gilbert, and I'm just a full-time mom and grandma, and I love it.
Great. Thanks, Donna. Matt?
Matt Riggs, married to the beautiful Donna Riggs, and grateful for that. Almost 35, well, a little over 35 years now. We are in Gilbert. I'm an attorney. Have had a law practice for almost 30 years now, and just enjoying life in Gilbert, enjoying raising grandchildren, spending time with them. In our spare time, we like to watch sports, and hope that we can offer something today that will make some sense to people and give some advice that might make a little bit of sense.
Great, and I'm sure you will. Let's start with your job, Matt. I know you're an attorney, personal injury law primarily?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And as I recall, it's a family business. You're in your brothers. Tell me about that.
So when I first started practicing law, I started on my own and just kind of hung a shingle, and over the course of time just kept getting busier and busier and busier, and so it grew and it kept growing and kept growing. Eventually my brother did join our firm, but not in and this might be some wise financial advice, at least it was wise for my brother and I. My brother at one time said that he was going to leave the firm that he was part of, and he wanted to know if he could join up with me and become a partner in my firm. And I said no. And the reason being, I expressed to him the reason I didn't want him to join is because I love him.
Right.
And I didn't want there to ever be a wedge placed between us. I've seen family businesses where somehow there's a divide, and whether it's the brothers themselves or the family members themselves that get into a little bit of a disagreement. And so we created an arrangement where he did join our firm, but in a different capacity. He does a different area of law than I practice. And in doing so, he brings in income and he keeps the income that he brings in. I bring in income and keep the income that I bring in. And each of our respective practices have grown. So he has associates with him. I have now partners and associates with me on my side. But still, although we share office space and we share some costs, we don't share income.
So in putting together this partnership with your brother, how critical was it to have expectations and goals put down on paper and firmly agreed to ahead of time?
Very critical. You want to have proper expectations. And that's something with finances, whether you're starting a family whether you are about to get married, whether you are starting a business, starting with proper expectations with the people that you're partnered with is critical.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things that Donna and I did when we first got married was we talked about our financial goals, and we were on the same page, and that was really important. So having proper expectations and being aligned is really, really critical.
You know, I've heard of a lot of people who go into business with family members or close friends who don't have a lot of those things delineated ahead of time. And as you alluded to, invariably it comes down, it creates conflict later on. And sometimes such strident conflict that, you know, you lose friendships, you alienate family members that you can't talk to anymore. And obviously you want to avoid those things. How did you make a decision about law coming in, going through college? You know, were family members lawyers? Is it something that you grew up around, or how did you end up as a lawyer?
Yeah, my grandfather was an attorney. My father was an attorney. My brother is an attorney. My brother-in-law was an attorney. My uncle taught law in law school, taught constitutional law. His sons were attorneys.
So it's the family business.
Well, I swore I'd never be an attorney. And in college, I started off in accounting and thought I would be an accountant. And then, not to get too religious, but I prayed about this and thought, all right, I need to change and become an English teacher and coach football. And that's what I was going to do. So I switched my major from accounting to English. After being in that program a short while, I started feeling I needed to change. And I thought, okay, I'd go back to accounting. So I tried that. It just wasn't feeling right. So I prayed again, felt to go into marketing, and then it ended up being in management, and then switching my major to a general business major. I kept thinking I've got educational ADD. But fast forward 5 years after law school, back up. So then Donna and I were talking about, after graduating, what are we going to do? And we had the feeling to go to law school.
Okay.
I called my mom. And
did you graduate in English?
No, with a general business degree.
Okay.
I called my mom and said, Mom, I'm thinking about we're going to go to law school. And she said, oh, Matthew, you're too nice to be an attorney. And I thought, what does that say about Dad and my brother and everyone? Anyhow, so we went to law school, and the first 5 years of practicing law were really hard. I just hung a shingle, and I started off by the first year throwing a Wall Street Journal paper route in the mornings, just to make sure that our family had food on the table.
Mm-hmm.
And then, but it continued to grow. And after about 5 years, and I've been told that any business that survives 5 years will make it for the rest.
Right.
And that seemed to work for me, because at about the 5 year mark, things started to really pick up, and we've been growing ever since.
Great. And Donna, you guys knew each other through all of this. You went to law school. You were married already when you went to law school, I assume. Did you go to college?
So we met my freshman year at ASU.
Okay.
And then when we got married, I stopped, raised a family, and then went back and finished up. And I have a degree in history.
Have you worked with that degree or
No.
taught or anything?
I haven't.
You've been a full-time mom?
Yes.
Have there been times when that was difficult, when you second-guessed that decision, or what's it like for you to be a full-time mom?
Hard, but rewarding. And yeah, I totally would look back and think, oh, I should have tried harder. I should have pushed through in the beginning, but we felt at the time that the focus was to get him through school.
Uh-huh.
And then we started our family right away, and it just wasn't possible until much later in life. But it was always a goal, and it was always something I wanted to finish. And so,
The degree you're talking about?
Yeah.
Do you ever regret not working along in that field?
No.
Or was family a priority for you?
Family has always been a priority. I don't regret not working in that field at all. I did regret that I couldn't get the education I wanted, because I felt like that was a goal I had always set.
Yeah, I appreciate that, because that's a question that a lot of people have today. How can I survive without two incomes? What does mom stay home and raise the kids, or does she go out and get a job? I always felt like raising the kids was a huge job. In fact, early in our marriage, my wife was gone for a week to a brother's wedding or something, and I had to watch the kids, and she came home and I said, I don't know how you do this.
Right.
Please don't ever leave like that again. So I appreciate that attitude, and it's because it's not that common necessarily in today's world.
It's not anymore for sure, but I feel like I was saving us money by being home. We cooked
Certainly
meals.
with 6 kids,
Yeah,
daycare would be very expensive.
Daycare, I was able to, have meals on the table and get kids where they needed to go. And so for our situation, it was the right thing for me to be home.
Good.
We've never wavered from that at all. It's always been.
Let me veer from that a little bit and ask you both a question. Regarding finances and financial issues, what do you think you did right when your kids were young? And we'll follow that up with what would you do differently or better in hindsight. But first, let's talk about what you feel like were successes in your family, raising your children from a financial perspective or just a personal development perspective.
Do you want to take that first?
No, go ahead. Let me think for a minute.
I can think of, probably because I'm more prideful than she is, I look and think, oh, I did great.
Yeah.
And so you'll have to forgive me for that. But one of the things that I think that Donna did great is she helped our kids recognize the importance of education.
Okay.
Every one of our kids got scholarships to college, and not necessarily they're not brilliant, but they're not super brilliant. But they worked hard, and they gave a great effort in school. That saved us a ton of money because every one of them had school paid for to a large degree. They also developed great work habits. Again, something because Donna was teaching them great work habits. If you ask any of our kids, they will say, we learned great work habits because of Mom. I have good work habits, but they learned it at home, and Donna taught them good work habits. So those were a couple of things that we did right. And one other thing I'm going to say as well, and she doesn't like it when I compliment her.
Well, no, I'm just going to say you were wrong because not all of them had scholarships. But what we told our kids from the beginning was school was on them and that they needed to struggle, that there's value in the struggle. And if we jumped in and saved them from every situation, they would never learn and grow. And so they would work jobs in the summer, all summer long. And some of them were TAs and they paid for their own school. We did not pay for our kids' school. We did help them out a little bit their freshman year while they were trying to get started and like if they'd just gotten home off a mission type of thing. And we were able to help there. But I think the most important thing we taught them was to avoid debt in the first place.
Okay. That
you did not need to go into debt to go to school. And they all took that to heart, and all of them have avoided debt for school. Now, graduate school is completely different. We have a daughter in graduate school. That's a different ballgame. We had to go into some debt to do law school, but we did undergrad without debt. And all of our kids were able to graduate undergrad without debt. Even if we told one of our sons, I don't care if it takes you 6 years. It's better to get it done debt-free. I mean, at least this was our philosophy on it.
And I appreciate that, Donna, because I think in today's society and economy, one of the first things people think about when their kids are young and they're starting investing and saving money, I gotta save X amount for my children's college education. Mm-hmm. And the thought that I've had is, since when did parents feel that obligation to pay for their kids' college education? I grew up, I didn't know we were poor, but I grew up kind of poor, and it was just assumed if you go to college, it's all on you. And so I got a scholarship and got grants and got worked. Right. Some of my roommates thought, you're working and going to school? How do you do that? And my grades were better than theirs. So I think the expectations are different today, and so I appreciate that. Right, and all during school, even during law school, Matt had a part-time job. And so we put ourselves through school. As I recall, you drove a brown truck for a while, didn't you?
I did. Not during college. That was after. Throughout college, I worked at UPS, mm-hmm. and I would get up at 2:30 in the morning and go to work, and then I would finish work and go to school. and like you said, you worked and got better grades than your fellow classmates. I saw in my classmates that didn't work, college was pseudo vacation time. It was a time to play until the real world started.
Right.
But if you have the mindset that the real world is already always, it never stopped. It never had a beginning. It was, you started even as a kid, and then you continued with that, then it wasn't any different, and you just worked. And so having a strong work ethic, in my opinion, is one of the most important aspects of finance. Recognizing that you can always make it if you have a strong work ethic.
And you and I have a mutual friend, and I won't mention who he is, but I heard him speak one time. He grew up on a farm, and his philosophy was everybody needs a farm. Mm-hmm. And living in a city like we do now, we don't have farms, but you have to find what your farm is, meaning what your work is and how you're going to teach that work ethic to your children. Whether it's chores, whether it's side jobs, delivering newspapers, whatever the case may be. I appreciate your comment about teaching your children to work, because I think that's crucial.
And another thing, that when they would be having a hard time, we validated but said, it's supposed to be hard. It's okay that it's hard right now. This is what it's not easy, and it's never supposed to be easy, and you can go to school and work, and it's hard, and we recognize that, but you're capable and you can do this. And
there are things that people learn through that
right.
strife, right?
And I feel like so often today, parents want to jump in and bail their kids out and make it easy. It's never meant to be easy. We have a daughter, and her husband just finished medical school. He's doing his residency right now. And she was telling me how hard it's been. And I said, it's supposed to be hard. You knew this was going to be hard.
Yep.
It's okay that it's hard. It's not fun, but it's okay that it's hard, Yep. And so many times we want to shy away from the hard. And that's where we learn the most and we grow the most, is through the hard. So we were okay with our kids struggling and having it hard for a little while.
Thank you. And I appreciate that, because again, in today's society, people shy away from hard.
Right.
We can do hard things, and it's okay. It's okay to struggle a little bit.
Yeah, that same daughter, bless her, she went and got a master's degree, and now she's home watching kids. and she doesn't regret a second of it.
Great.
And they are really giving their best effort to make it on a shoestring budget, and they're doing fine. They're going to make it just fine.
Well, and several things you've mentioned that I want to just very quickly reiterate before we go on to some other stuff. Working hard, obviously, learning to work hard, learning that you don't have to have everything right now, the value of an education, and working hard at your education, and being prepared to take ownership of that education. Mm-hmm. If you have to have a job while you go to college, heaven forbid, in today's society you do that, but there's nothing wrong with that. Yeah. Again, those are life lessons that obviously relate to finances, which we talk about here, but relate to so many other aspects of our children's lives.
If I could just add, when I say the value of an education, and when we were talking about that, I think that education comes in a lot of forms. It doesn't need to be formal education. Maybe you wanted to go learn to be an electrician. Whatever it is that you find your passion in, you're being educated. And so when we talk about it, doesn't mean, everyone has to go to college if it doesn't fit you. I
agree. I agree completely.
Yeah.
It could be a trade school. It
Exactly.
It could be learning on your own. I mean,
Right.
There's so much education we can get by going on YouTube.
Right.
Obviously, go on YouTube and look up Hey Pops Financial, but shameless plug there. But there's a lot of different ways to get education, so I appreciate that very much. Anything else that you wanted to mention that seemed to work for your family as your kids were growing up?
Well, I'd just like to throw this out there as well.
Sure.
When I met Donna, she was going to school and she was working. Mm-hmm. And that was attractive to me. I was attracted to Donna not only for a lot of reasons, obvious reasons, but I was also attracted to her because of her work ethic.
Yeah.
She was a good student and she was working. And I thought, okay, she was supporting herself through school. That was attractive to me. I thought, okay, this is somebody that gets it. This is somebody that is already living and not just playing. And I was attracted to somebody that understood life and life principles.
And I appreciate that, Matt, because too many times we live in the moment, especially in college. Like you said earlier, college is supposed to be a time to you play, have a good time, sow your wild oats, do whatever. I mean, kids do now. I went to a university that was very much different than that. It was a religious university, Brigham Young, and there weren't fraternities, there weren't the play atmosphere that you went to ASU. That has always been known as a party school, but it doesn't mean you have to party. But being attracted to somebody that had the same ethics that you did, knowing that you're looking for a spouse you're going to live with forever and is going to help you raise your children potentially, and that forward thinking, I think, is a compliment to you, that you are already looking forward enough that you were attracted to somebody that could raise your children the way that you felt like they would be raised. Let's talk about some things that if you had to go back now in time, or could go back in time, that you might do a little differently or do a little better. One of the things that I think of right off the bat is teaching my kids how to budget and how to save for eventualities. I don't know if your kids are like mine, but I've had my air conditioner went on my car, what do I do, Dad, kind of phone calls from time to time. What do you feel like financially related you could have done better or teach your children better? And if you had a chance now to go back, it might give them a little more instruction.
We probably weren't super great teaching them about budgeting.
That's everybody says that.
Without question,
Yeah.
we didn't do very well at teaching
didn't.
them how to budget.
No.
Although they saw how frugally, especially our older children, saw how frugally we lived. Our younger ones didn't get that much of an advantage in that regard. One of the things that I think I would do differently, I'm impulsive. It's a weakness that I have, that I have had to really work hard to discipline myself to not be impulsive. And yet sometimes I still am impulsive, and our kids have seen that, and some of them have patterned their lifestyle after my impulsivity. I wish that I could go back and change that. When we were young marrieds, there was a store called Sports Authority. At one time, we made the decision together that I would not go into Sports Authority alone. And if I did, if I saw something there that was over a certain price range, I needed to come home, tell Donna about it, wait 3 days, and then if I still felt that I needed it, then maybe go get it. But it was a unified decision. That saved us, I'm sure, thousands of dollars, because I would buy all of Sports Authority at the time if I had just my will on that. But Donna was helpful in that to a large measure. But I regret that our kids have seen me be impulsive at times and not exercise more restraint.
It's interesting that it seems like you complement each other. You're more impulsive. You're more of a sit back and think kind of a person, and a lot of couples find themselves. The trouble, I think, is when both of them are impulsive or both of them are poor budgeters. You really have to be careful. But that's great that you can complement each other. Donna?
So I think one thing that I think we might have done a little better. So you want to shield your kids. You don't want them to always know that maybe we are struggling financially. We're going through some hard times. And we kept a lot of that from them, and they had no idea how, at times, how tight things really were, because we just didn't want them to worry. But then I heard one of my daughters say a few years ago, well, we never had to worry about money. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Yes, we did. And so maybe we should have been a little more open and have family discussions about, hey, we've got to be careful, or we've got this going on or this going on, and just involve them more in some of the hard, so that they didn't have this, like, things are never supposed to be hard, because we never wanted to portray that, but we did have this instinct, like, they don't need to know, they're kids, they don't need to worry about that. But maybe they could have been a little more involved in some of the hard, just so they had a little more realistic view of what marriage and what they were going to face and
Right.
how expensive it was to raise a family and how there could be setbacks and things like that.
I appreciate that. I think most of us want to shelter our children from the hard things. And as you mentioned earlier, life is hard. I mean, we have to go through struggles, and finances, though you don't necessarily, I think, need to give them all the ins and outs and gory details, but it's okay for them to know that you're struggling, that you can't afford, that big Christmas present that they want, or whatever the case may be. They need to be involved in those situations. The other side of that, though, is, I felt when I was growing up, and I never really, raising our children, we never had a lot of money, but we did okay. But I had told my wife that if we ever do get to the point that we're real comfortable, I don't want my kids to know that, because I don't want them to grow up feeling entitled. And so you have to kind of weigh both of those ends of the spectrum and find yourself somewhere in the middle. But thank you very much for that. I appreciate it. Any other things that you think you would do better or would like to go back and change with your children?
I can't think of anything with the children so much. I like what Donna said about sharing a little bit more. And as she was saying that, I thought about some of the times when we did share with them, sometimes when we were going through some experience, whether it was financial or other experience that was a little bit difficult, and how bonding and unifying that was for our family.
Yeah.
There was a time when we were buying the house that we're in now, and we had we brought the kids over here and had them take a look at it, and we talked with them about, all right, it's going to be a bit of a financial sacrifice if we do this, and they were okay. They understood and they got it. I think it's sometimes we are a little bit. You have to be careful because you don't want to give too much to the kids to stress them out and make them worried so that they can't participate well in school or anything like that. But at the same time, helping them understand that it's part of our family. This is what our family's going through. We need to bond together and pray together as a family.
We talked a little bit about budgeting. I think, Donna, you mentioned it. What do you think you could have done as far as teaching your children to budget and to use money? And Matt, I think you mentioned debt a little bit ago. Avoiding debt, maybe part of that. But what do you think you could have done specifically? Any ideas about that?
We never gave our kids allowance.
Okay.
So they never had money per se to really budget. Sometimes they'd work some summer jobs. Sometimes the girls would babysit. So yeah, I'm not a very good one to answer that.
Matt, what do you think?
I think the same thing. We could have given them some money and help them learn how to budget with that. If we could go back and do it over, we would probably do that at this point. And we didn't do that. One of the things that we did emphasize was the importance of living within your means. So although we didn't have them budget, we stressed the importance of living within your means. And all of our kids know our story, if you will. And our story is such that when we lived in our first home, it was 1,650 square feet. And we didn't move out of that home until we had 5 kids and 2 brother-in-laws living with us. And I would have people ask me, aren't you an attorney? And they saw that I was driving a 10-year-old or more vehicle. They saw that we were living in a smaller home, if you will, for people that are in my profession. And they were surprised. And we've shared that with our children as they were old enough to understand this, so that they understand it's okay to live within your means, even though other people might be spending more than they should. Mm-hmm. And it's okay to not keep up with the Joneses, if you will.
I read a term recently, and it struck me as very apropos. It was lifestyle inflation. Mm-hmm. We tend to, as we get into our career and start making a little more money, we tend to raise our expenditures to the level of or above our income. And it's very easy to do that. And debt becomes a great way to do that, and we see people that may be living what I call high on the hog. I'm not sure where that came from, but living a very lavish lifestyle, and we think they're rich, not knowing that many of these people are financing that lavish lifestyle with debt. And obviously that's not the way that sounds like you raised your family, and certainly not the way that I recommend we go about that. Let me ask one other question here, and we're getting close to time to wrap up, and so I want to give you time for some final comments. But how important is it, and I know the answer already from listening to you, but to make sure that you're both on the same page as you were having children, raising your children, now having grandchildren? From a finance standpoint, how important is it that you communicate well and both are on the same page regarding finances?
I think that's probably the most important thing, is to understand and to have a common goal and to be shooting for that common goal. It makes it a whole lot easier than if he's got one plan and I have another plan. But that has to be linked together. If I can, for just a minute, when we were purchasing a house one time, the bank qualified us for an amount that was so far above what we knew we could pay back. And I was shocked. I'm like, why would they approve us for this amount? And so we ended up buying a home when we calculated mortgage payments that we could afford, that was far below what the bank said we could qualify for, because we knew what we could afford. And so I think there's that temptation, to just max everything to the top. And we really tried hard to avoid that, because we knew where our limit was, whether the bank agreed with us or not.
And that communication is critical in that. Matt?
Well, I'm afraid that everyone else is going to fall in love with Donna as much as I'm in love with her because of what
She's already married, so.
I know, she's taken, guys. But you can see how amazing she is. And yes, your question about being unified, it's just critical. I was grateful to, and I still am grateful to be married to somebody who understands the importance of living within your means, who understands that it's okay to live well below what the rest of society tells you should be spending.
Well, you were good at that too.
Because I had somebody by my side who was helping me not be impulsive and do impulsive spending. But we both did. We set goals, and we're both goal-oriented people, and we met the goals.
Terrific. And now you can enjoy the benefits of that as you have children and grandchildren spread across the country, and you have time and the ability to go see them and spend time with them. So anything you'd like to add as we close up then about financial literacy, financial education as it relates to your family, your children, your grandchildren, those to come?
I don't. Do you have anything?
No, but if my grandchildren are watching this, listen to your grandma. She understands well finances, and
Terrific advice.
She will take good care of giving you perfect financial advice.
Thank you.
That's not true.
And again, Matt and Donna Riggs, we appreciate you very much. I appreciate your friendship over the years, and certainly appreciate you joining us in this conversation. If you like what you hear, and hopefully you do, hopefully it resonates with you and gives you some information about what you can do a little better as you teach your children and grandchildren financial issues and financial literacy. Be sure to like us, be sure to subscribe, share it with your friends, do all of those things that, online folks do. I'm certainly not an online guru by any means, but that's why I have people that know it better than I do. But we appreciate your listening to this, and hopefully you look forward to more conversations of a like manner with other people that we have. Again, thank you, and we'll talk to you later.
Thanks, Larry.